Hey, hi students. I'm Dr. Walker, and I'm a biology teacher, and so I'm going to be presenting a series of videos that will prepare you to take your biology leap. And so each video will cover one or two topics, and there will be a link provided in the chat on each video that has the document that I will be typing on. So if you want to type along as I'm typing so that you can have a study guide for later, please feel free to click on the link that's in the chat. Okay, so we're going to get started now with Unit 1. Unit 1, we're learning about the molecules, the teeny tiny little molecules that come together to form living things. And so, of course, biology is the study of life. So we're going to start by learning what are all living things made up of, the smallest unit. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now and share my document with you that I am typing on, and let me go ahead and put the link to this document here for you. If you want to go ahead and open that, click on that link. Now, when it opens, you're not going to be able to type on it. So here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to click on File and then click on Make a Copy. And when you do that, you will get you'll get a whole separate copy that you can type on. Okay, so to start off with, just to connect in your mind what we're talking about, you've probably seen this periodic table. And the periodic table is a list, an organized list of all the different elements that we know of that exist. And so an element is made up of all the same atoms. So you've learned that atoms are the smallest unit of matter. And so each of these elements, so each box is a different element, and each element is made up of all the same atoms. Okay. And so some of these elements are found in living things. Some of them are not found in living things. Some of them are found just in the soil or in rocks or in the atmosphere. But some of these elements are found in living things. And so that's what we're going to talk about first. What are living things made up of in the smallest form? Okay, so we're going to use this chart. On your paper, it looks like this. Okay, so I just I turned it sideways so that I could type on it better, but you shouldn't have any problem typing on this one. So you just type on yours what I am typing on mine as we talk or as I discuss the topic. So organic compounds are the molecules of life. So all living things are made up of these organic compounds. Now, a compound is several elements connected together. So elements are things like carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and a compound is several of those connected together. And another name for a compound is a molecule. So we're going to be talking about the molecules of life, or organic compounds. Organic just means life, living things. So organic compounds are the molecules of life. We call these organic compounds macromolecules right here. And the reason why we call them macromolecules is because they are large molecules. So molecules are tiny, and elements are even smaller, and atoms are even smaller than that. So we've got atoms, and then a group of atoms that are all the same are called elements. And then elements, different elements connected together in chemical bonds are called molecules or compounds. Molecules, compounds, same word. And then a group of molecules all connected together are called macromolecules. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about are the macromolecules. And there are 4 basic macromolecules that make up all living things. And the first one is called a protein. I'm sure you've heard of proteins before. Proteins, we need to eat protein in order to grow. And so proteins are made up of 4 elements: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. And this CHON is just the symbol for each of these elements. So C is carbon, H is hydrogen, O is oxygen, and N is nitrogen. Okay, and so the smallest unit of the macromolecule in proteins is called an amino acid. So like I said, macromolecules are a bunch of molecules linked together, so that the single molecule by itself is called an amino acid. And if you look at the chemical structure, that's what this is right here. The chemical structure of proteins, you'll see that they've got hydrogen, the H's are hydrogens, the N is nitrogen, the C is carbon, and the O is oxygen. Now, there are different types of amino acids. So all the amino acids have this same basic structure down here with the hydrogen and the carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen. And then this R group represents how they're different. So each amino acid is slightly different, and that's where the difference is in this R group. Okay, so this is the chemical structure of an amino acid. And so a protein would be several amino acids linked together. Okay, so what is the function of a protein? Well, proteins are for building muscle and tissues in the body. They are also enzymes that speed up chemical reactions in the body. And they're also antibodies in the immune system that help us to fight off infection. So they have lots of jobs. Proteins are very important. And if we can't make the proteins that we need, then our body is not going to function the way it's supposed to. So some examples of proteins: actin and myosin are found in muscles. And then hemoglobin is found in the blood, and it helps to transport oxygen throughout the body. And then you've got different types of enzymes like lactase and amylase. And these are enzymes. These particular enzymes, lactase and amylase, work in your digestive system to help the digestive processes move along the way they should. So the foods that are high in protein would be meat, cheese, beans, nuts, and eggs. All those foods are high in protein. Okay, so now let's move on to the next macromolecule, And so if you need to pause the video at any time so you can catch up, feel free. But I'm just going to keep on going. So the next macromolecule that we want to talk about are carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And so we use the acronym CHO for carbohydrates. So C is for carbon, H, hydrogen, O, oxygen. And so the monomer for carbohydrates, or the smallest unit of a carbohydrate, is called a monosaccharide. Okay, and if you look at the chemical structure, right here, the chemical structure for carbohydrates, you'll see that there are only carbons. The C's are carbons, there are oxygens, and there are hydrogens. And so a carbohydrate is made up of lots of these little structures hooked together in long chains. Okay. So what is the function of a carbohydrate? Well, carbohydrate's main job is energy. So we burn carbohydrates first for energy. And so an example of a carbohydrate, move over here to examples, would be glucose, sucrose, and fructose. So glucose is what you find in your foods, like your vegetables and your pasta and your breads and things like that. Sucrose is table sugar, and then fructose is the sugar that you find in fruits. So another word for monosaccharide, I want to come back over here and add this so that you will recognize it if you see it. It's also called a simple sugar. Okay. So glucose, sucrose, fructose are examples. And then the foods that are good or have lots of carbohydrates in them are things like bread, pasta, rice, and then your potatoes and other vegetables and fruits. Okay. All right. The third macromolecule, like I said, there's 4 macromolecules in living things, are lipids. Lipids contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and phosphorus. So the acronym for lipids is CHOP. Now, the smallest unit of a lipid is a fatty acid. Fatty acids and glycerol. Okay, so when you look at a lipid, lipids come in these long chains of carbon and hydrogen, and then you've got the oxygen down here on the end. The phosphorus comes in when in phospholipids. Phospholipids are found in your cell membrane. So one of the main functions of lipids is it's a component, or it makes up cell membranes. But also, other than that, let's put phospholipid here. Phospholipids make up your cell membranes. But lipids are also used for long-term energy storage. So don't get this mixed up with carbohydrates, because carbohydrates are your main source of energy. But if you always need some extra energies for times when you've burned up your carbohydrates and you need a little more energy. So that's when your body turns to your long-term energy storage in your lipids. Okay, so example of lipids would be like your phospholipids, and then the food that you find lipids in would be things like butter and oils and waxes. So like your waxy your waxy candies and stuff, those have lipids in them. And of course your butter and your oil. And then the last macromolecule are nucleic acids. So nucleic acids are made up of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and nitrogen. And so the smallest unit or the monomer of nucleic acids are nucleotides. Okay. And so here you see what a nucleotide looks like. A nucleotide has a phosphate group over here, and then it has a 5-carbon sugar, and then it has a nitrogenous base. And so the purpose or the main function of nucleic acids is genetic storage. Let me say that differently. Storage of genetic information, storage and expression of genetic information. So not only do nucleic acids store the genetic information, but they also play a part in expressing what that genetic information is supposed to do. What is its job according to that? So the examples of nucleic acids are DNA and RNA. So there you have it. You've got your 4 macromolecules. Let's just go back through them one more time. You've got proteins, you've got carbohydrates, you've got lipids, and you've got nucleic acids. Okay, so all 4 of these macromolecules or organic compounds are the molecules that make up living things. And when I'm talking about living things, I'm not just talking about humans and animals. I'm talking about plants. I'm talking about bacteria and fungi and other types of unicellular organisms like amoebas and things like that. All living things are made up of these 4 macromolecules, and they have jobs to do in these living organisms that are very important, and we can't survive without them. Okay, so that is the end of the first video. Thank you for watching. On the next video, we will go into more detail about the nucleic acids, DNA, and RNA.